I am very grateful to God this morning to stand before the people of God to talk about how amazingly He sought me out and saved me. My testimony is particularly about how God graciously sought me out. I was born into the Muslim family. We were brought up to embrace and practice Islam. And as a boy, there was something inside of me that was not satisfied. The religion was there, but the peace, that sense of true, feeling really being truly loved was absent. So it happened when I was in the junior school. I came about a book that my elder sister was given from school by a friend to read, but she didn't bother to read. She just dropped the book there in the house. So I came back that day, I found that book, and I read. It was about the title was The Great White Throne Judgment. Up until that time, all I knew was just religion, just fast during the Ramadan, at least try and be a good boy throughout the month of Ramadan. Then after Ramadan, you can go back to your normal life, and then just like that. But on that particular day, I came to that realization that if I were to die at that point, I was going to go to hell, because there was no relationship between me and God. My life was just, well, I could be gentle and look good and calm, but deep inside, it was like a green snake living under the green grass. So, but that day, God sought me. I got convicted. I was all alone in the room. And when I read that book, it dawned on me that God is no respecter of persons. Because the way it was stated in that book of Revelation, chapter 20, from verse 11 through verse 15, was that I saw a great white throne, and he that sat on it, from whose face the heaven and the earth fled away. And then I saw the books were opened, and another book was opened. And then the Bible says that the small and the great were judged out of the content of those books. So I realized that even though I was small, if I found myself dead at that point in time, there was no escape for me. Thank God that the book didn't end up in that tragic tone. It provided a solution, that Jesus had become the substitute. He had borne the punishment, that he has paid the price, that if I could just shout out to him, he was right there. Even though my parents were not around, nobody was there, but Jesus was there, and he was going to answer my plea. And just right there, I went on my knees right beside the bed of my dad and mom, who were committed to Islam. But I found Jesus right beside their bed. And God saved my soul that day. And I could, last year, November 23rd, because every 23rd of November, I remember that day when he came and rescued me. So last November was the 31st year after I had that experience. So that means he has saved me and kept me for 31 years. Praise the name of the Lord. And now, one key thing about this testimony is the fact that when I gave my life to Christ, my parents were all angry. That what is happening under our roof? You are going to follow Jesus? No way. It was a terrible experience for me, because my parents, because we were living, we had family members all around. It was a community gang up against this boy, not in this house. So it was so horrible, it was so terrible, that in fact at a point in time my dad was like, I rather had you dead than for you to mess up the name and the image of the family. It was very tough. I was beaten, in fact, serious physical abuse. I was tortured. At a point in time, they said, well, you don't want to listen to us? No worry. Go meet Jesus. Let Jesus give you your breakfast. Let him give you your lunch. Let him give you your dinner. Let him pay your school fees. Let him do all whatever you think you're going to need. So practically, I was disowned. I was abandoned. And you know, God gave me that scripture in the book of Psalm 27, verse 10. When my father and my mother forsake me, then the Lord will take me up. And it was amazing because Jesus really took me up. What they couldn't offer me, Jesus offered me. He gave me proper care. I was able to go through secondary school. I completed. And I was the first in the family that was able to finish and then proceed to the higher institution. And then when they began to see, it's like, this boy, we thought he's going to come back and plead with us and beg us that please accept me back. But he's not looking back at us. He's not looking back. He's not turning back. You know, they began to look at it. Okay, it's like what this boy actually got is something worth going for. Because initially my dad told me, well, you will come back and meet us. But that day I made up my mind within my heart, I will not come back to that religion. I will not come back to that old life. And on one particular night, I'm sorry, I hope I'm not taking too much time. All right. Yeah, because it was a very long, it was a very, very terrible time for a boy, a teenager, having to go through so much. I remember there was a particular night that my dad was so very, very angry. He said I shouldn't go to church. I found my way. I went to church. So when I came back that day, it was that, so you have done it. Today, let's settle the score. So he was so desperate that this night, that was going to be the end. Beating, he used the cutlass on me, used the bottle on me, beat me so mercilessly. And he was hoping that I would say, God, Daddy, I'm sorry, I will not go to that church again. I will not do this again. But I was just like, I love you. I am sorry if I offend you, but then I've gotten something that I cannot do away with any longer. So it was like, you are not yielding. You have to send me out of the house that night. It was in the dead of the night. And where I lived back in Nigeria then, that community was terribly obsessed with idolatry. You go out anyhow, you might just be gone. So they sent me out that night. I was still a teenager, and I had to walk through the dark, and I was just wondering, where do I go? They were like, you are no longer a part of this family. So God just led me to the house of some of the brethren. Then I worshiped with Deeper Life Bible Church back home then. And I had to locate their house. Do you know that after I got to their house, they gang up again, they traced. I don't know how they managed to figure out that that was where I went. They came in their numbers. And they were knocking, just like if you remember the story of Lot, when those angels were camped lodged in his house, and those people gang up in the night and say, open the door, those people you kept in, bring them out. So they were like, just bring him out. And those ones, they have to be very careful, because I was a minor. They wouldn't want to be implicated that, okay, they took in somebody without the consent of the parent, and they wouldn't want to lie that I was not there. So I don't know how they did it. Somehow God just gave them an idea. They turned off the lights. They smuggled me from the room where I was into another room. And then in that room, they had a large, a big box. So I had to be thrown inside that box. They threw clothes to cover me. I was sweating there, but I could not shout. So I was there. Because of my small stature, really, I could confidently stay inside the box, all the clothes on me. So eventually they turned the light and said, okay, they then opened the door. At least they had the confidence. Okay, if you come into the house and you don't see this boy, then we will have a ground to accuse you that you came to harass us in our house this night. Then they began to talk to themselves. What these people are saying makes sense. If we go in and we don't find this boy, it might become a case. So That was how they just said, okay, let's go. We'll come back again. Or the boy will come home later. That was how they went. That was how God delivered me from their hand that night. The following day when I got home, I don't want to remember that day because it was very terrible. I got in. My dad and mom have gone out, but because it was a community thing, they said, hey, he has come. And that was how they had to bundle me into a room. And they began dealing mercilessly with me. There was this whip that we used in Nigeria to really punish criminals. That's what they use. They used the first one on me. All the teeth of the whip cut. They took another one. They brought very heavy cane. And you imagine why are they using all those things on? A little boy, just about 15. And it was so terrible. At a point, they were not satisfied. They said, let us kill him. They brought out the gun and said, if you don't recount now, we are going to shoot you. If you don't talk, I'm going to kill you. And I don't know where I got the courage from. I looked at that man. I said, sir, I forgive you because this thing you are doing, you don't know the implication of what you're doing, but I have forgiven you. Rather than softening, he got angry again and said, who are you, small boy, to say you forgive an old man like me? He got angry again and then he continued. At a point, they said, let's take him to the shrine and slaughter him there. Well, somehow, they didn't do that. God spared my life. And so terrible, so painful. Most of the time when I go to have my bath in the bathroom and I see the scars of some of those beatings that I had to go through, one thing that always comes to my mind is this: Lord, I have suffered this much here. I don't want to suffer when the Antichrist comes. Because the torture of the Antichrist will be worse than whatever this current torture is. And I thank God because over the years, He has constantly helped me to remember that past and never to get myself into a situation where I will have to suffer with the Antichrist or to suffer in hell again. So the Lord has been gracious. They abandoned my education, the responsibility for my education, but God took me up, saw me through university, took me through a lot of very, very wonderful experiences. And today I am grateful to God because He kept me. Yes, He saved me. And one beautiful thing is that all those people that persecuted me, one by one, the Lord began to save them. Yeah. Yes. And that's just the wonderful thing. My siblings, we are 6 in my family. I can look around. Out of the 6 of us, it's only one person that is still oscillating between Islam and Christianity. But the rest of them, they have a claim to Christ. They have a commitment to Christ. My dad was so very, very terrible as a persecutor. At a point in time, Jesus appeared to him in the dream, just like He did to Paul. Why are you persecuting this boy? Why are you treating this boy like this? Do you know my dad woke up from that dream? Instead of him to say, like what Paul the Apostle said, Lord, Lord, what will you have me do? When he woke up, then he came to challenge me. So you are now sending spirits to me in my dream now. And then he changed the gear and then continued. But I want to thank God because God gave me a vision that He was going to have mercy on them. When my dad was 67, we had his birthday. I invited a minister to come and pray and preach to him. He gave his life to Christ. And he bought a Bible for himself and he began to read. I was away when he passed away last year, he passed away in November, the same month I gave my life to Christ. He passed away in that same month of November. And when my sister was telling me the situation about the time of his death, I could testify that he found mercy. Yes, because my sister, when she got into his room, before even he died, he began to call. He said he will pray for his children. He was asking after me. He couldn't reach me. He left a voice note. Prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And when my sister got to his room after his death, she still found that Bible right on his bed. And God gave me the assurance that he found peace. My mom also died just about 6 weeks after my dad passed away. About 7 weeks after my dad died. And I thank God that, well, I wasn't there when she died, but the testimony was that she had peace also when she was going to die. I want to thank God because of everything the Lord has done in bringing me out of that very, very horrible past and giving me a place among his children. Anybody who is yet to find Christ today, there is always room at the foot of the cross. And that is the safest place anybody could ever run to, regardless of where you are coming from, regardless of what you are facing now. Jesus makes the difference. Thank you very much.